Church, I'm sure you've seen it done a variety of different ways over the years in various different places. And as we were singing some songs, I was recounting, like, I've heard this song in this building or that building, and it sounded like a bunch of dead fish, laying in a, little castle in their aquarium with nothing reaching out to heaven, nothing being a pleasing aroma in the nostrils of the Lord. In most places, you can come and we can sing 3 songs, take an offering, put you to sleep for 15 minutes with a boring old word and send you on your way, right? I have no interest in doing any of those things. If we're not here to worship God, if we're not here to impact the kingdom, if we're not here to encourage each other or stand on faith or believe for something great, then we're here for all the wrong reasons. If I never get to preach a message, but we're seeing sight restored to the blind, but we're seeing people grow in the Word, but we're seeing joy restored, or we're seeing victory over hopeless situations, then we're in the right place and we're doing the right things. Because it's the Spirit of God that's here to make a difference in our lives. It's not the suit jacket I wear, and it's none of my scribbles and my notes, right? If those things don't come from the Lord, they don't make a difference. I believe God has a message for us today, but I want to encourage you. If you ever need prayer, don't wait. Don't wait, right? Because the Spirit of God wants to make a difference in your life. And I was with Lynn. There was a spirit of heaviness in the place. It's like we're dragging anchors in. And that tells me that people are fighting real battles and feeling real underneath it. Right? I can relate with you. I can relate. I'm going to go ahead and have you turn to Genesis chapter 32. We're going to read the whole chapter, not because it's short, but because it's important. And I thank you for coming expecting it. When we come expecting God to do something, He comes ready to do it. He comes ready to do it regardless. But if we're not expecting, He said, the prophet's not without honor except in his own hometown. He couldn't do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. Right? When we come ready for the Lord to show up and do something in our life, He's ready to do it. Right? It changes in us. All right, Genesis chapter 32. Starting at verse 1, and we'll just read the whole thing. Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." So he called the name of the place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, instructing them, "Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male servants and female servants. I have sent to tell my Lord in order that I might find favor in your sight." And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you." Dun, dun, dun. "And there are 400 men with him." Dun, dun, dun. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him and the flocks and herds and camels into 2 camps, thinking, "If Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape." And Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, Return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. I am not worthy of the least of these deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I have crossed this Jordan, and now I have become 2 camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude." So he stayed there that night, and from what he had with him, he took a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. These he handed over to the servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass on ahead of me and put a space between drove and drove." He instructed the first, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, 'To whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you?' Then you shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are presents sent to my lord Esau. Moreover, he is behind us. He likewise instructed the second and the third and all who followed the droves. You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him, and you shall say, moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me. And afterward I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed ahead of him, and he himself stayed the night in the camp. The same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. The sun rose upon him, and he passed from Peniel, limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip and the sinew of the thigh. Let's bow our hearts there. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we come to you in the name of your Son, Jesus. And Lord, so grateful and thankful for a word. God, so thankful to be in your presence, so thankful that you don't give up on us, no matter how much we deserve it. Lord, I just ask you to be with your servant, to hide him behind the cross. God, that this not be just a thought of my imagination, but God, this be your word and your message right on time for your people in this place today. So God, I ask if there's anything I'm prepared to say that need not be said, you just strike it from my mind. And for all those things that I miss, God, you just download that information right now so that we, your people, hear your message, hear your voice, and are changed by the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's in Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Amen. So I was thinking a lot about, how you present a message about wrestling with God. It's not easy. I like passages like this because they're strange, right? I'm sure many of you have read through Genesis 32 before and scratched your head a few times and thought, well, I don't get that one. Let's go on to Genesis 33 and see if it makes any more sense. But I'm going to start it like this. It was March the 23rd, 1997. That was the day of an event called WrestleMania 13, right? And the headline of that event was supposed to be The Undertaker versus Sid Vicious for the WWF Championship. But let's be honest, nobody who watched that pay-per-view cared anything about watching 2 unathletic Nephilim swing fists at each other for 5 minutes until one fell down and they pinned him. That was so boring. Okay. But there was something else on that card. It wasn't the main event. It wasn't the world title match. It seemed like an unimportant thing tucked down in the middle of 2 frustrated guys. One, the technician, his name was Bret Hart. He was frustrated because for the last 5 years, he had been the ultimate good guy, the baby face of wrestling. He had done everything right. He'd been a good company man. He had wrestled 300 days a year since 1991. He had done everything they had asked him to do, but he was burnt out. And he didn't see his career going where he wanted it to go. On the other side, there was a guy that had been in wrestling for about 10 years. His name was Steve Austin. He was a West Texan. He had gone by many monikers. One place they called him Stunning Steve, and he had all this long blonde hair, except it kept Hulk Hoganing back on him at the top. So eventually he just shaved it bald. And when he got to World Wrestling Entertainment, they didn't know what to do with him, so they called him the Ringmaster. And it was boring and nobody cared. And he was on the verge of being cut. And then this crazy thing happened. He started a program with Bret Hart, and for no reason at all, the technician and the West Texas brawler made beautiful music together. And the WWF didn't really know what to do with either guy, so on the biggest show of the year, they just tucked a match in for the 2 of them right there. And it was incredible. It made the art form come alive like very few people have ever made professional wrestling come alive. And that night, something changed. Steve Austin had always been an afterthought. He had always been someone at the bottom of the card, somebody that would be made promises and they would look the other way. But it was that match that changed professional wrestling. It saved the company World Wrestling Entertainment, who were on the verge of extinction. They were going out of business because fans had lost interest. And it saved a mediocre talent named Steve Austin from just washing out and going back to, driving a backhoe in Amarillo, to being the most popular wrestler in the history of the business, more popular than Hulk Hogan at his prime. For some of you older people, he was more popular than Lou Thesz or Bruno Sammartino. Or if you go back even further than that, he was more popular than Gorgeous George. He was more popular than Muhammad Ali in the 1970s. And everything happened that night. So what happened that night? It started like any other wrestling match started, two guys throwing fists and tackling each other, rolling out on the floor. And by the end, Bret Hart was no longer a technician. And he was no longer a good guy. He was cheating. He was using microphone cords and every foreign object he could to just get this old brawler off of him. And there Steve Austin lay bloody and beaten. And Bret Hart put him in his finisher, the sharpshooter. And the match was an I quit match. And Steve Austin said, I would never quit. And so he laid there. And if you had a brother that was 6 years older than you, you can vouch for the fact that the sharpshooter is incredibly painful. 5 seconds in that will leave you wanting to never walk again. 2 minutes he sat in the sharpshooter, and 3 minutes he sat in the sharpshooter, and his face was bloody, and they didn't know what to do, and the referee is looking at the back like, I don't know. And finally Steve Austin passed out, and they rang the bell, and he lost. The most important match of his life was a match that he didn't even win. But from that moment on, he became Stone Cold Steve Austin. He sold more t-shirts than Walmart in 1997, right? And everything changed. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, you didn't read the story of Genesis chapter 32, right? In fact, you probably hadn't read the story of the Bible just right. Because it's not in our great victories that we find the life that we're looking for. It's in our greatest defeats. Right? See, Jacob wrestled with the Lord and he didn't win. I tell you, anybody who has a busted hip socket for the rest of their life and has to limp around didn't win the fight. I don't care whose hand got raised at the end. They were the loser. And yet, it was that moment, not any of the moments that had happened before, that changed Jacob permanently. Changed the course of the entire nation of Israel. Changed the entire course of human history. And from that moment, another man went in and wrestled with God and men and came out on the other side and changed the course of salvation for you and me. So let's talk about it. So let's talk about Jacob. So Jacob had left years earlier. He left at sunset from Bethel after God had made him all these promises. Why did God have to make Jacob all these promises? Because Jacob was something. He was not a good guy. He was born a charlatan, a huckster, a used car salesman, right? Snake oil salesman. Jacob was born a conniver. He had come out clutching his brother's foot from the womb. He always wanted something that didn't belong to him. And if you're not familiar with the story, if you want to know why he was so afraid to see his brother Esau after 2.5 decades, it goes like this. Esau was the firstborn and the rightful heir to everything that their father had, and yet one day he came in probably fearful for something he saw in the field. That's a different story for a different day, and saying he was famished. And so Jacob said, give me your birthright. Give me the right to everything you would inherit, and I'll give you a bowl of soup. Esau didn't care about birthrights, and so he gave everything that was owed to him to his brother for a bowl of soup. How dumb. It's almost as dumb as trading access to the throne of God every day for a piece of fruit in the garden. You can't be real bright. Only those are the types of deals every one of us have made at some point in our life. And then Jacob wasn't satisfied just getting the birthright. He also wanted the full blessing that belonged to his older brother from his father. So if you recall, he made his dad a bowl of goat meat and covered himself in goat hair and pretended to be Esau and went in, and he stole the blessing, and then he ran off with his tail between his legs, probably 1,000 miles away to go meet a girl. And then he spent the next 21 years, 7 of them working for the love of his life, Rachel, only to be given the mother of his children, Leah. 7 more years to finally get Leah's sister, Rachel, the love of his life, and 7 more years for good measure from old father-in-law Laban. See, anytime you're a conniver working in your own strength, just know there's someone who's going to out-connive you. Anytime you think you're the smartest, one day you'll run into someone smarter. Anytime you think you're the strongest, you're going to run into someone stronger. Anytime you think you're the toughest, you're going to run into somebody tougher. And anytime you think you're the meanest, you're going to run into somebody meaner. That's the story of life. Every one of us thinks we're the greatest and the best until the day we run into someone who's a little bit greater and a little bit better. And then it crushes us. And yet, before Jacob went to see Laban, God said, I'll be with you. You're going to be there for a little while, but I'm going to send you back to a place, and I'm going to uphold the promises I made to your grandfather Abraham and your father Isaac. I'm going to make you a great nation, and your offspring are going to outnumber the stars. The multitude will be so great that they can't be counted, and things will go well with you if you do it my way from this point forward. And so we saw Jacob change just a little bit. Here was the problem. He was still Jacob. Even after that encounter, even after God had brought him through all of those things, he still came back Jacob. Church, here's the problem with us sometimes. We come and we pray a prayer at the altar. Everybody ever prayed a prayer at the altar? I've prayed many of them, right? And then we say, okay, God, I'm going to do it your way, and it's going to be all about you, and you're going to lead and guide and direct, and I thank you for saving me, right? And so there's a change, and we begin to live with that little bit of change. Only every time a problem comes up, we still have that old tendency, hey, Lord, I just need you to jump in the passenger seat real quick and keep your mouth shut. I don't like a backseat driver. I'm just going to take the wheel until we get through all this traffic. And then I might give it back at the end, right? Once we're back on the West Kentucky Parkway and there's nothing to contend with, you can have it for a minute, Lord. Anybody ever done that? Right? I'm changed. My life's bought and paid for with the blood of Jesus. God, I trust you in a couple of areas, but the rest of these areas, God, I still just trust me. You know what is so cruel about our relationship with God is when we think we've gotten over that, He gives us 5 or 6 of those things at once, and we realize, oh man, I still try to do this all my way. Even when I'm praying, Lord, not my will, but your will be done, we're still doing it our way. Well, Pastor, how do you know that that's what Jacob was thinking? Because as Jacob starts praying, the God of my father Abraham and the God of my father Isaac, and the Lord who said He would bless me, reminding God of all the things God said. God, I want to remind you of your part here, right? And then at the same time, hey, I need you, God, 1 second. I need you to go send some calves, and I need you to send camels, and I need you, and divide up the company. And Jacob was still in control of the situation. He was still terrified of Esau, his brother, after probably 25 years or more, right? Imagine wronging someone that 25 years later, you have that pit of your stomach feeling, thinking, oh boy, this is going to be a mess. Right? Anybody ever been there? Mm-hmm. Anybody ever have a mountain in their way and they keep thinking, Lord, you said if I shout grace, grace, you'll just get the mountain out of my way and I won't have to deal with it. Anybody ever been there? Boy, I've woken up several mornings this week thinking, Lord, I just don't want to do that. If you just get it out of my way, then, your word says you'll do it that way. Anybody ever remind God of the promises He made out of context so that they go the way we want them to go? You know, if that's you, you've got a little bit of Jacob in your life. Hey, join the club. Your pastor's got a lot of Jacob still to deal with. See, we can be saved. We can trust the Lord, but the process starts from that point forward, right? The trusting has to grow. It's like your child. How many of you had one of those kids that just didn't believe you when you said, the oven's hot, don't touch it, right? See, Jude was a kid. If you said, the oven's hot, he'd go tell everybody, it's hot, right? My parents still laugh. They had a fireplace, and he would tell them, it's hot, it's hot. He didn't have to know it was hot. He believed me when I said hot. Cooper wanted to go sit near it. Ooh, it is nice and warm, right? Lucy's like, hey, can I lay down in the fire? No, it's hot. I don't think it is hot, Dad. I'm just going to get in there and burn myself. Yep, it's hot. Oh, gosh. Why are you like this, child? Was your mother like this? I'm going to call her parents. Why is Lucy like this? No. Some of us still have to touch the oven to prove that it's hot. Probably none of you have to do that, right? And then when you realize they were right, it was hot. Then the next time when they tell you, no, don't go outside without a jacket because you get pneumonia, cover your ears, right? Then you listen that time. Nope, didn't get the lesson yet. That's kind of like Christianity. See, you are a child of God, and yet you're still learning to listen. Unfortunately, many of us have more gray hair than we choose to admit, and we're still learning to listen. Right? That's our walk with the Lord. It's easy to judge Jacob. In fact, his life is almost comical until we put it in the context of our life, and I think, like, oh man, Lord, I resemble that far more than I'd like to admit. And so, here we come. Jacob left at sunset, and he's coming back 25 years later, and the sun is about to set again. And there he has a mountain in his way. He has that trial, that tribulation, that thing that he didn't want to have to deal with. He was hoping in 25 years it would just go away. Hey, Esau was a wild man. Maybe he just got killed in battle. Or maybe a bear attacked him when he was killing a lion. Who knows what was going on? Maybe when he was clearing the Nephilim out of Mount Seir, maybe one of the giants got hold of him. Nope, no such luck. Here we are back in the land of Jordan, and there's my brother Esau. And so he starts by saying, hey, go tell him I'm going to bless him with all this stuff. It's just me. It's just your brother Jacob. But the problem was it was still Jacob, right? Esau knew Jacob. I'm not going to trust one word that he says. He's never given me reason to trust. Sometimes the mountain doesn't just get out of the way when we shout grace, grace at it. Right? Sometimes the mountain's still there. And so they come back with bad news. Yep, Esau knows it's you, and he's coming. He and 400 men. And then Jacob's heart sinks. Oh, it's worse than I thought. How many of you thought a situation was going to be bad, and then you get the real information about it, and you think, nope, it's not bad, it's worse than bad? Anybody ever been there? Anybody ever been there since last Sunday? Right? Yeah. Sometimes you think, Lord, it's... And every one of our prayers starts like this. God, you have promises for me, and you said you would remove these things out of my life so I don't have to face it. So God, I'm either going to run the other direction and never deal with this, or you're going to clear the path and I'm never going to deal with this. But Lord, I don't ever want to have to deal with this. Anybody ever been there? All right, we've got a bunch of liars in church today. Okay, we'll try it another way. Well, here, I'll raise both of my hands. I pray both of those things. Lord, either I'm going to Ric Flair it on out of here with my belt intact, or you're going to get it out of the way and I'm going to show up and I'm just going to win by forfeit. That's how I want to get through life. I don't want to deal with Esau when I get to Jordan, Lord. You promised me it would go well with me. Well, if I see Esau, it's not going to go well. So why don't you do it my way and just get this out of the way, right? That's how we want to go through life. That's what we want Christianity to be. We want there to be a Staples Easy button right in the middle of all of our messes. There's no Staples Easy button. Those were just commercials.
That's why.
We don't have a Staples. Well, see, if we had a Staples, everything would be great. Unfortunately,
Fortunately,
all we've got is the Lord. That's way better. So, Jacob was trying to do things. How was he trying to do them? First, he was trying to do them like Jacob would do them. He was trying to connive. He was trying to use his powers of persuasion. He was trying to use his mind to dupe Esau again. Hey, Esau, we never have to deal with the past. In fact, I've got all these things that I want to show you that shows you I'm a changed man. He went right back into his flesh. Church, the easiest thing we can do is be a chameleon and go right back into our old skin. Right? That's not what God's called us to do, is it? He didn't call us to revert back to the person that we were going to be. No. No, He's calling us to be something different, to be changed, to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. That's what Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2 says. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. He wants Jacob to have come back learning lessons, to be different than he was when he left. And yet, as soon as he comes back into the place, he starts acting like Jacob and trying to do everything in his mind. I want you to know there are a lot of smart people in this room, but you're not smart enough to solve every problem in your mind. You know how many times God has to tell me that a week? It's really exhausting. You'd think I'd get the message like, yeah, well, Lord, listen, I got this. I got this. And then I get in the middle of it like Peter, 100 feet off the boat, once he's fallen in the water, like, well, don't have it. Pick me up. Come on now. I do that constantly because I think, God, I can solve this. There's a solution. How many of you think there's a solution to every problem? There is a solution to every problem. His name is Jesus, right? You're not going to solve all of your problems in your natural mind. And if you want to, you're going to find yourself frustrated and you're going to find yourself intimidated because there are some battles that can't be won in the natural. Jacob was trying to win this in the natural. He was trying to solve it in his mind. He was trying to solve it with his wealth. There's a funny saying about the Cleveland Browns. It's funny, they are the losingest team in the NFL since they came back in 1999, and yet they've spent more money on players and personnel and facilities than any other organization in the league in that same time. They say, if you're the Browns and you don't know how to run a football organization, you just throw more money at it, right? How many of us just keep trying to throw money at our problems, or our wealth, or our influence? We think that we're going to figure out how to have enough money that we don't ever have to deal with anything. How many of you have ever sat down and written the list? If I won the lottery that I don't play, at first I'd pay a little tithe to the church, of course, Lord, of course. And then I would pay off my debt, and then I would still have, $999,999,000 left, okay. Then, I guess, I would probably get all my children out of that. Okay, now we're down to $950 million. Anybody ever done that? Right? You're thinking, hey, if I just had enough money, I could solve all of my problems. Is that why Christ died? So that we could just solve all of our problems ourselves? That's what Jacob thought. Oh, Lord, I see why you sent me to Laban, and I worked all these 25 years, 21 years plus. I see exactly what happened. See, you blessed me to the point that now I have the resources. I can just trick Esau into leaving me alone. I'll just bless him with, that still gives me half of my company. Hey, we're still in the black. See, I left with just the staff. I came back with 2 camps full. I can give Esau 1 whole camp. He'll leave me alone. I can go back to Canaan land and I can start the life that you promised me. If I just had a little more money, Lord. Right? Maybe if that promotion comes through, maybe if that bonus comes through, then I can afford that thing that is, has me so stressed out that I can't sleep at night. Maybe that'll be the thing. Maybe if I work a second job, maybe if I work a third job. Hey, maybe if I work 3 jobs and I Instacart on the weekend and I DoorDash in my sleep. Hey, maybe I can get one of those robotic cars that'll DoorDash for me while I sleep. Maybe if I have 5 jobs, then I can afford life. Anybody ever tally it up like that? Lynn told an interesting story this morning, and it resonated so well with me. And in the end, he was talking about how God cares about our problems. See, we think that God only cares when Lazarus has died. Like that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
Hey, he can call Lazarus forth from the grave. His first miracle was turning water into wine, so that the groom's parents could save face at a wedding. He had a man throw a stick into the water to pull an iron axe head out, so he didn't have to owe someone. God cares about your little problem that you think, God, I don't want to bother you with this. How many of you have that problem that you think, oh, that's just my little thing to deal with? Like everybody's got something, Lord, right? I don't want to bother you with my little thing. Jesus Christ died with your little thing on his mind. He died with your little thing on his mind. When you can't pay the rent, that's not just your cross to bear. That's not just because you're not working enough hours at McDonald's. Right? Jesus Christ died with the concern that you had not being able to pay your rent on his mind. And you're not going to work enough hours to outrun all of your financial problems. You're not going to be able to just throw money at every solution. Sometimes you need someone to say, brother, if you can't afford it, guess what? I can do it for you, right? That's why God put me in your life, is to take care of that need. But we have to begin to rely on the Lord. And we can't just pay him lip service. God, I know you said you'd bless me, right? What was Jacob trying to do? He was trying to outsmart God. He was trying to use God's words against him in a court of law. And that may sound terrible. I've done it. God, you said you had plans to bless me and not to curse me and give me a future and a hope. Well, I feel awfully cursed right now, Lord. So one of us is not holding up our end of the bargain, right? Nobody's ever prayed like that? I'll need a better relationship with the Lord. He can handle it. He's not soft, right? He took nails in his hands and feet. He carried a cross. He took 39. He can take you challenging him. What I'm saying is, we have to stop trusting in our own strength. We have to stop trusting in our own intelligence. We have to stop trusting in our own wealth and our own ingenuity. Eventually, we have to put our life in God's hands and allow him to work all of these things out. David said, I've been young and I've been old, and I've yet to see the righteous of the Lord out begging bread. Right? God knows where you're at, and he knows your situation. And he says, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. But he's not going to wave a magic wand over it. That's what we want. We watched Aladdin the other day. Great movie. Great movie.
One of the greatest.
Exactly. See, Annie knows. Right? The whole premise of that movie is every time they got in trouble, they could just rub a lamp and here the genie would pop out. He'd solve all the problems. Right? Only, and every time he solved the problem, he created 100 other problems. Because, you know, if you're not really a prince, just dressing like a prince and riding in on an elephant doesn't make you a prince. You still got a problem at the end of the day. Jesus Christ doesn't create illusions, right? And he doesn't just wipe the ledger clear of everything that's in front of you. Eventually, you have to confront the thing that's trying to challenge you. Jacob didn't want to confront Esau. That's what this was about. He didn't want to have to come face to face with the person he had been. He didn't want to have to confront the person that he had wronged. He did not want to be accountable for his past actions. God's grace is sufficient. But one day in this life, there are consequences to our actions, and we have to face those things down. If you stop going to work for a week, when you get back, you have to face the fact that there's going to be at least 7 days of work standing there waiting on you. Right? No one's going to just take up the slack and do it for you. That's how life is. But it got even harder than that. See, once Jacob had prayed to God, we've all done that. And then after he completely disregarded everything he just asked God for and worked it all out himself, okay, this is the plan. We're just going to do it my way. Because God didn't answer in the millisecond since I prayed. So I've got a plan. We're going to just fool Esau again. He's easy to fool. That's why I have his birthright and his blessing. Right now I'm just going to pass through Seir. He's not very bright. I can't imagine he got brighter in the last 2 decades. Then he gets alone. And this is the point we really find ourselves. When we're overwhelmed with anxiety, when life has started to close the walls in around us. Now Jacob was alone with God. There was no one to trick. There was no one to connive. There was no one to impress with his wealth. There was no one to negotiate with. And there he started the wrestling. Now, I'm sure as he started wrestling with this man, he thought, oh, Esau was already going to kill me. Now I'm going to be exhausted from wrestling this dude. He's really going to make easy work of me, right? How many of you know sometimes God's solutions don't seem like our solutions? God's ways are higher than our ways. It's very frustrating when he starts working because you're like, Lord, that doesn't make any sense. I've read that story of Elijah so many times, like, God, they're in a drought, 3.5 years, and you want him to take 2 fatted calves up to a mountain, and then you want him to douse his with water that they don't have. And then instead of anyone getting the water or the calf, so they're short on food, they're short on water, they're short on money, they're short on time, you want to waste all of those resources by consuming these 2 things in fire. Right? As my dad used to say, Lord, I don't know how you start fires in heaven, but usually we don't start with water. It's not really the first element. God's not interested in how we start fires in the earth. He's wanting us to get interested in how he starts fires in heaven. Unfortunately, that's our problem most of the time. We're trying to remind him how we do things here, and he's trying